Beautiful photograph, man.
Purple is
Yes,
always going to be
thank-
best.
Yeah, thank
Man,
you.
Carl.
People coming in.
I mean,
Welcome, everyone.
We don't have to wear no mask, right? No, just in case.
Oh my God.
I think we're far enough, Carl.
I wish y'all were closer, tell you the truth.
I know. Soon.
Yeah.
Hope. See? That's what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. Nice segue.
There you go.
Hi, everyone. We're going to give it a couple more minutes and let some more people make their way into the room. Thanks for joining us. Thomas Rio says, Carl and Griff in the house.
Yeah. Yeah. That's danger, Mr. Robinson.
What's up, Paul? Paul says hello, everyone.
Hey, Paul.
Gonna give it about 2 more minutes.
Oh, it's okay.
God, I love this photo, Carl. It's one of my
It's amazing.
favorites.
So are you, do you want me to send you a copy for your house?
Oh, yeah.
That's what you're saying?
You know, man. I'm not- you know,
Well,
I do have a lot of famous photographer friends who often send me stuff, but I'm not telling you to do that, okay?
well, something may happen in the near future. I'm not going to tell you when it happened, but who knows? It's a possibility. I mean, you're doing some amazing work, Joe. I mean, the stuff you're doing really, dovetails on some of the stuff that I want to be involved with. So
Yeah, of course, man. We've been having a good partnership so far.
yeah. And congratulations on the judging.
Yeah,
for the
thanks for doing
grant.
that. We're gonna announce the winner tomorrow, but we.
Okay, I'm not gonna say anything, but
Yeah, no,
it was
we're not
fun.
announcing the winner tonight, but the
No,
for the Focus on the Story grant, we posted
yeah,
the runners up and the honorable mentions on our Facebook page, and some really great work up there.
yeah.
Hey, there's
it's really
Maggie
good.
Stever. Hey, Maggie.
Oh, Maggie.
Hello, Maggie.
And I saw Carol Guzzi there too.
Carol Guzzi. Wow.
Awesome.
All right. Someone raised a hand. If you have a question or want to make a comment, put it in the Q&A box. You can put it in chat, but you will probably miss it because things scroll pretty fast there. So if you have a question, stick it in the Q&A box. We're gonna get to questions and Q&A and discussion. We're just gonna. This is our last show after This is our 17th webinar in the last 3 months, and I have no idea what we're gonna do tonight. We're just gonna throw it open and heck, bring everybody up onto video and just have a party. There's Phil, just says he submitted his 5 photos. That's
Okay.
Phil, thanks.
Hey, Phil.
Gracias.
All right, well, I guess we'll go ahead and get this thing started. If you're in, thanks for joining us. If you want to drop into chat where you're watching from, we always like seeing where people are tuning in from. Tonight, we're at 7 p.m. on the East Coast, so we may not get as many people from Europe and Asia as we typically do. It's pretty late there, but love to see where everyone's from. As I mentioned before, this is the 17th webinar we've done since April 1st. At the end of March, we made the very difficult decision to cancel our photo festival for this year. It was supposed to be during the month of June. We canceled that festival and made the decision to move as much of our programming as we could online. And we did that to a large degree, and we created new programming. It's been fun. Had some really serious discussions, some lighthearted discussions. I'm exhausted. I mean, I'm ready to take a little bit of break. But first, I wanted to bring these people back on. I mean, I've known some of them prior to this festival, but I've really got to know them over the last 3 months as we've talked about our project that we're working on, Imagine, Visions of Hope. And I really enjoyed meeting them and getting to know them. And I'm gonna basically have each of them say just a few words about where they are today, what you've kind of seen through this process of looking at pictures that represent resilience, perseverance, and hope. Anything you want to say, actually, there's no rules tonight. I'm going to start with Maria. Maria, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Maria Daniel Balacazar. I'm a documentary photographer, and I'm also doing some fine art now, and I'm working on some books. But for me, resilience and hope in this moment this project was fascinating, and I'm more involved each day because we are getting these beautiful images that reflect not only resilience, but also like Colin Finlay that is here. He has those bears that he captured a moment of tenderness, and in contrast of what we associate with this very aggressive bears and dangerous. So, and there you have also beauty, beauty that, and for me, that photo, for example, nourishes resilience. And you have other photos which just by looking at them, it gives you strength. So I think that the criteria I think we all have here is that we are trying to portray hope and resilience and the capacity of we humans to overcome adversity. So and some photos really have emotional impact, and it makes us think, it makes us feel something. And the nice, beautiful thing is that we're trying to be very, to have all the countries as possible, different cultures involved. So it's that, and because photography goes beyond words. We don't need to speak Arab, we don't need to speak Spanish, English. You just look at it, and it touches all of us across the globe.
Thank you, Maria. 17th show, and I'm doing my introductions out of order. So let me go back a slide. I thought I would throw stuff up, but Carl's the co-founder of this project. He's the one that came up with the idea. He's the co-founder of Iris Photo Collective, and has really been an inspiration to me working with him. But Carl, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about what you've got going.
Yeah, I am Carl Juste. I'm a photojournalist with Miami Herald for the past kind of moving on to 31 years. And I'm also co-founder of Iris Photo Collective, owner of IPC Art Space, and Griffin and I, we conduct a school, our educational component called IPC Visual Labs. We're trying to create a space where we could find a new visual storytellers that's going to replace us once we put our cameras up and shut our eyes, which I hope is not going to be, it's going to be a long time from now. But one must prepare as opposed to plan. So that's what we're trying to do. What I like about this project is that when I look at the images, and a lot of these images, they are drawn from really difficult circumstances. Circumstances where if you're in them, you probably would be hopeless. If it's Bosnia, if it's Darfur, if it's Haiti, if it's Africa, it really, or if it's Brazil, it really doesn't matter, because pain and joy is the same everywhere. But so is hope, because hope is something we all can agree on. We may not be able to agree on the color blue, but we are able to agree on what hope looks and feels like. Because each of one of us at some time in our personal lives had to draw onto hope. And what I think is so astonishing about this, about the work that's being presented in this project, it is the depth in which hope is discovered, the nuances, the understanding, the mastering of not only of subject, but of the moment. The ability to expand that frame so it becomes almost like we all speaking the same language. Each one of y'all on the panel, those who have submitted, those who have had the courage to put their hearts somewhat ahead of their eyes. Each image that we have chosen has that quality. And I'm proud to be with these fine visual communicators. And I'm lucky to call most of them friends. I mean, close friends. These are the people that if they came to Miami or they're down on their luck and they call me, you know, Colin, I would be there. Griff, Maria, Indira, Joe, Maggie, and everybody else in the audience that I personally reached out to, you know that we have to be each other's keeper. And I think these photographs become that type of relationship. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And I want to also take a second here to talk about the project a little bit more. I mean, this was Carl's idea because we were in the beginning of the pandemic and it seemed like a very dark place for all of us. And he said, you know, we really need to show people the power of photography to remind us what hope looks like. And that's why we launched this open call. And it's still going on. And we're going to talk more about that tonight. But we want everyone out there today in the audience to go through your archives and see some photos. And the real purpose of this is to kind of show photos that have been submitted and what we like about them, and to give you ideas of things that might be good for this project. Our plan is to have an online gallery, which we do have now, and to eventually curate a traveling exhibit. And we'll talk about that a little bit more too. But first, on with the introductions. Indira.
That's me. Hi, I am Indira Williams Babic. I am a photo editor, curator, and storyteller based in Washington, D.C. And I've had the incredible pleasure to meet with these wonderful professionals every week and look at these, gosh, impressive assortment of photographs depicting hope. And I mean, after all of the beautiful things that they have said, with which I agree, all I have to say is that this has been food for a soul that has been yearning for hope. And everything that we've all been through in this country, all the things that we've seen, COVID, the manifestations of social injustice and the reactions to it, have made us all fragile. And I think the fact that people have continued to contribute and to this mosaic of images that try to depict hope has been absolutely wonderful for me personally, and hopefully for those of you who have been able to go to the website and look at them, and those of you who will be able to see the collection of images as we put together an exhibition and start traveling it all around the US and hopefully the world. It's not over, as Joe was saying, and hopefully as things continue to maybe progress into a little bit more calm and purpose and accomplishment, we'll get to see more of that hope as it develops and as it continues to nurture our souls and make things better for you as a photographer and for all of us as the people that consume that work that you do. And a little plug for some of my people. Muchas gracias a todos aquellos que hablan español y que hispanoparlantes, latinos, latinex, todos que somos parte de la familia. Muchas gracias por haber contribuido sus imágenes y sigan mandándolas, sigan enriqueciendo este contenido para este grupo en el que todos estamos unidos de corazón. And that was it.
All
That's
right.
pretty good, man.
Thank you.
I'll put the translation on somewhere at some point. I remember everything I said.
That was dope.
Yeah, that was good.
I don't even speak Spanish. I understood that.
Because it comes from the heart, my friend.
That's true. Yes, it does.
CW.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is CW Griffin. I'm a former military photographer, former photojournalist with the Herald, again, for 31 years, an educator, and, you know, a member of IPC and the Iris Photo Collective. And the thing that I've enjoyed most about this project is the project tends to illustrate something that I've had a belief in for a long time. And that is that as photographers, the only thing that makes us different is our perceptions, how we perceive things, our individual perceptions. You know, for instance, if all of us were assigned to go out and shoot a love story, we would all have to sit down and figure out what love was to us. What does it mean? You know, love to me, you know, may be a story about a little boy and a dog. Love to one of you may be a story of a couple that's been together for 50 years. But what it does, even though we all have the same equipment, we all have Sonys and Nikons and Canons, it's all the same. But the only thing that makes us different is how we perceive things.
Mhm.
So this is an opportunity for us to see each other's perception of what hope is. And that's the one thing that we get to see in the variety of pictures that comes from the variety of people around the world. The stories that touch us the most are those, as you say, in which we may not be able to speak the language, but we can understand the gesture or the feel that comes from that particular image. So that's one of the things that I've enjoyed most about this project, and looking through the submissions of pictures that we've had up until this point, is that we have images of hope that comes from all different types of perspectives. And it gives me a good feeling, really, to be a part of this group.
Awesome. Thank you. We have a special guest tonight. I'm going to let Carl introduce our guest.
Yes, man.
I heard you moaning from here, Carl.
Nah. I just got so much stuff to say.
All the way out in Cali, I can hear you moaning.
Yeah. You know, Colin has been to 90 different countries, and his award-winning documentary photographer, photojournalist. But what makes Colin special is he has found the ability to make the foreign scenes familiar. He really has. If it's nature, if it's breaking news, if it's feature stories, if it's the environment, he really understands his subject. And he's patient. And he's looking at his subject matter, not only with his eyes, but with his whole sense of being. I remember Colin and I, we traveled a couple of times to a couple of countries, but one of the things that really that stayed with me throughout the years, he's someone I don't have to talk to him every week, But if I call them 2 months, a year, maybe 3 times a year, it felt like we never left. We worked in Cuba together, and just to be with someone that kind of completed your frame. You know, I would look at Colin's picture and I would not only say, hey, I wish I shot that. I almost felt like I did, but I didn't. Trust me, it's a couple of images I wish I did. But I say this, he really understands the power of the still image. And now he's into music and cross media and doing all these interesting things and taking that creative energy into places that I think enhances all his endeavors. So enough about me talking about Colin. Colin, welcome. Thank you. Thank you at the bottom of my heart. And I thank God for him bestowing you with such great gifts. And please just let's tell the people what you do, man, because you do it great.
Oh my gosh, Carl. Wow. Tremendously honored. Thank you. That's really, really beyond words. Thank you. And all of your amazing partners. You've got CW, Indira, Maria, Joe. You've just assembled this really incredibly powerful, beautiful team. And it all comes, you know, from the generosity of your spirit and your passion that you're bringing to this. You know, it's just, it's a huge honor to be a part of something like this and to be asked and, you know, to be actually to share some of the images and have them resonate with you and have them resonate with other people that are on the, that are part of your team and part of your collective. I'm just, you know, this vision of hope is something certainly that is something that we all hold on to. God, I'm doing it almost every day in these new projects that I'm working on. You know, everything is, how does this resonate hope? How does this spread? How does this reverberate? How does this echo out into the world as a new vision of hope, as this new, deeper love that we are all yearning to find in this deeper connection that we find with each other? And that's our future and what we're finding now and how we're redefining our country. We are redefining our love. We are redefining who we are as humanity. And I think it's an incredibly, incredibly important time at this moment in history of who we all are and what we go forward as. And I'm incredibly proud to have a few of my images resonate and contribute to this vision of hope that you all are bringing to this future. So I'm incredibly honored to be here. So thank you, Carl, and thank you, Joe and Maria, Indira, CW. Much love to you all and respect. Thank you.
I think you add very well to this amazing scrapbook of humanity. You know, I really want, you know, and Joe and I think I can't speak for everyone, but I could do some generalization. I think when you look at this collection, the body of work, there's so much truth telling coming from so many different directions. And yes, some of the circumstances are probably some of the worst human conditions, but somehow, these amazing truth tellers are able to find that flicker, that flame in that dark tunnel. And I'm not exaggerating. Each image is a pull away from that darkness. And I think, Joe, would you say the images that we picked have that quality? Joe?
Yeah, you know, there's a real breadth and width of images. I mean, there's not one sort of category or genre that we can say, okay, these are all documentary or photojournalism. I mean, we've really debated and accepted some fine art submissions and things that are just thematic, things that kind of just fill you with hope just looking at them. And then images that we really need some context, you know, and that's one of the things we want to talk about as we go through some of these images is context is very important. As you submit your images, you know, please give us a caption. Tell us what we're looking at. Tell us sort of why it's hopeful to you, or why it represents hope. It does help us decide on the images as we discuss them. I mean, yes, and we had this debate, you know, an image should stand on its own. We should be able to look at an image and it should speak to us. It should tell us a story. But this is also a project where context is key, and it also helps us in our discussion. I'm going to share my screen because we're going to get to looking at some photos, and we're not going to let Colin off the hook just yet because he's going to be first.
Badass Colin.
So I want just sort of the team here to take a shot and tell us what you thought when you saw this photo for the first time, and then we'll have Colin fill in some of the gaps.
All right, Colin, remember when we used this for Eyewitness, right? And Bernice said it best. Bernice Steinbaum, I got into not a heated conversation, but a very lively conversation. Why photography, photojournalism, documentary photography is art. And I was explaining to her that, you know, we are always operating in the moment. So we're extremely contemporary in our practice. And Bernice saw this, and this is one of the, I never told you, did I tell you this, Colin? This is one of the images that convinced her.
Wow.
Because she was transfixed. She was transfixed because I was trying to explain to her the idea of the expanding frame. That this is one of those images that yes, you have described the condition, the physical condition, but you also have described the condition of the soul.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna stop there, and you could I'm gonna hand it off to you, Colin. Tell us about this frame.
Got it. It's from Darfur, and it was a woman that I found at a refugee camp. I was doing a project with Doctors Without Borders. So I was doing a video project for a news station back here in Los Angeles, as well as shooting stills. So I had double duty on this project. So it was that early time when you're discovering, you know, how can you reach more people and what actually is the most effective way to communicate to a mass audience, you know, the images that I'm, you know, trying to share. I mean, it's crazy to say in these black and white contact sheets, but you look back at it, there might be at the most, there's probably 2, maybe 3 at the most images of her total. And that's it.
Wow.
So she was inside a tent. So there's amazing diffused light, but the tent was white. And of course the sand is reflecting, and the way that she's backlit, and then I obviously, you know, the way I chose to do the exposure obviously was based on her. So it just, you know, everything about this image, you know, spoke to me and my soul, and her forehead, you know, resting upon her knee. And it was one of those moments that just, you know, you stop breathing, you stop blinking, you stop functioning. You're in sometimes these unbelievable crystalline moments in time. And you're in this space absorbing her energy, and also absorbing, you know, what I've always felt the title of this photograph to me has always been, which is dignity. And that's what I'm trying to bring to her, is dignity, a bit of resignation, but also the power of her soul. You know, and that really, you know, resonates with me here. And Amnesty International really embraced this image. And, you know, Larry, the president, then, you know, for him was like, not only is this the face of Darfur, this really is the face of Africa.
Quick question. How
raised
old is she?
so much money. It's really incredible. She's raised $200,000 at some of these auctions. It's just been astounding how she's reached and touched people.
How old was she? Do you know?
I'm going to talk here about 50s to 60s.
Okay. Okay.
And again, it's just so hard, you know, wear and tear on the body in a place like the Sahel and the desert and what it does to you. What's strange too is that many people for a number thought it was a man. They didn't even know that it was a woman. Very interesting. So, but you can see, obviously, you can see that she's been crawling on her knees because the skin is worn from her kneecap.
Right.
So you can see that she's crawled on her knees because of, you know, incredible difficult conditions she was in, just trying to get to this Doctors Without Borders refugee camp. But she's here. She's reached this place, and that is that point of hope, or this is the point of turning around for her, that point of recovery for her. So that to me is what it expresses. There's obviously very difficult images from this project, but these ones are the ones that I hold on to. These are the ones that are hope for me. These are the ones that have hope for others. And that's the most important part of doing what it is that we do, is to inspire and to, you know, to share this image and to help people feel and connect with them emotionally with this image, as I feel that, you know, she does with me at least.
You and a lot of people.
Yeah.
I love the image. Does anybody else want to weigh in? Let's go to this next one of Colin's.
Oh yeah.
I
That's
think
Maria's.
Maria mentioned this earlier in her introduction.
It's too damn cute.
Somebody asked me, why did you put the bears? They didn't understand it. It was funny. So I tried to, that's why I mentioned it, because it's really a moment of tenderness, such a beautiful moment. And I see that like, it's like beauty when you see it, and beauty kind of nourishes resilience. And that's what I felt, it's nature.
Well,
and
their habitat is being threatened by us.
Yes.
You know, and completely decimated. You know, with global warming, I mean, their food source is diminishing, and you would think that with all that's going against them, you know, this is a reminder to us humans that no obstacle, diversity, you can't overcome with love. It's such a passionate hug. It's almost human.
Beautiful.
I think that's the good thing about a picture like that. It's that we can look at a gesture, and that gesture is what gives it meaning.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a second or two later, you know, they may have pushed each other away, but at that moment, that particular gesture, you know, is what brings all of the feeling, you know, to us. It's beautiful.
And that's what I was talking about, Colin. He has that ability. He's very patient, number one. Number two, he has the ability to kind of get it all in one place. I mean, I tried that. I tried that. Sometimes I win, sometimes I lose, but he seems to be a lot more successful at it than I am.
Oh my God.
Colin, what about this photo made you submit it?
It was that vision of hope. I mean, our collective future, you know, I see all of us tied together, you know, in this great world of ours, all the different colors and creeds, animals, nature, oceans, coral reefs, the polar bears, the plight of the elephants, and all of us, I feel, are connected on some deep spiritual level. And it's just this emotion that was expressed through these bears. Also, in a lot of the research and studies that I did, and I did get to meet and work with some First Nations people in Canada, is that it is said that some of the First Nations people are said to be reincarnating through polar bears to understand their experience.
Mm.
So for me, at times, this could be two amazing First Nations people who recognize one another's soul, and they're embracing in this extraordinary moment to me, you know, that I feel, you know, resonates with me, and it just the arms are completely around the other polar bear's neck. It looks like the other bear is whispering something into his ear, and the polar bear is leaning in. So it's just this very sort of also intimate moment. And, you know, I do have hope, whatever that's going to be for these polar bears, and where, if we can turn our environment around. And because that's what's happening, Carl, is that the bears are getting less time on the ice to hunt.
Yeah, it's a hunt.
So they used to be out there in October. Now they're not out there until the end of November, and the ice is melting early in March, not April. So they're having less time, you know, to feed. So when they have less time to feed, then their bodies go into this, you know, into a starvation mode. And the bears, out of self-perseverance and their own well-being, will not have offspring, because their body will not be able to carry the polar bear, because the female bear knows that her own health is in jeopardy. So there haven't been any triplicate births. I mean, it was amazing. The group I got to work with, some of the scientists have been there studying this group of polar bears since 1969. So some of the men and women up there have been studying these bears for 40 odd years. And it was an incredible experience to absorb their knowledge of what they've seen and how it's changed. So it's, you know, it was just a very important part to the environmental story that I was doing. It all ties in with Antarctica, what's happening in the Sahel, desertification, what's happening to coral all over the world, and, you know, what's happening in the interconnectedness, you know, of us all. That was one of the books that I did, is on the Sahel, and part of it is on Darfur and Antarctica, because a 5-degree temperature in Antarctica means 25% less rainfall in the Sahel. And we're seeing what that dust is doing right now as it travels across the country. Half the United States has got this massive dust cloud, and that's all coming up from desertification in the Sahel. And that fine particulates are all floating over to us. So what we're feeling, that's desertification in the Sahel. That's 25% less rainfall there. That's 3 inches instead of 4 per year. So just really looked at how all these stories connect with one another, how Darfur reflects back on that, how our own country, mountaintop removal and the copper mines and the aluminum factories and all the different places, connecting all the dots around the world. That was probably a 20-year project, putting all this together on the environment.
I like this too as an example of, it's not all, you know, the documentary style photography that we have of people and refugees and people in different places. I mean, we've got, you know, I'm actually very surprised we've got very few landscape photography, you know, photos submitted. We've got, very few nature images submitted. So I do want to, you know, mention that as a great example of how you can find hope in things that don't include people. The next image, Colin, why don't you set us up? Let's do it the other way around. Set us up with this photo and tell us what's happening here.
On this environmental project, one of the important chapters of this body of work was the after effects of war on the environment. So this was a particularly intense trip where I did the legacy of Agent Orange, and in Vietnam, the access that I was given was really nothing short of extraordinary. I'm not even sure how that happened, but a door opened that I was able to walk through. And this story in Cambodia, on the hundreds of thousands of square miles that have been lost due to the, you know, the K5 belt, which was laid during, you know, the whole Khmer Rouge regime, and the millions of landmines that were laid. So it's, you know, people that are willing to trade a life or a limb for $1 a day, and children again are also susceptible. But so I spent a lot of time working with a lot of different clinics, Belgium Handicap International, and a lot of other amazing folks telling these stories of these, most importantly, when we spoke last time, landmine survivors, not landmine victims. And this area had been recently cleared of landmines. So this is an area that really has been claimed back by these children, and it is now a safe place for them to play. And obviously they're going to be laying some water and sewer lines through this community. These are just some of the little circular remnants where these children were using as, you know, this was their park, this was their place to play. So the children gathered here, and it was just one of those innocent photographs that you see driving down the road on the way to someplace else. And I just asked the driver to stop and reached out to the children, communicated, and hung out there for a couple of hours just watching these kids until they finally obviously forgot about my presence and were just engaged in the glory of, you know, childhood and finding beautiful moments of bliss. And that's part of some of these really important images that I'm always trying to bring into my work is we need that hope. We need that positivity. We need to see that things are changing. We need to see images that point towards the light, not images that all point towards the dark. And that's, again, what I love about Visions of Hope, Carl, and what you guys are all creating there together is that vision of hope. And that, you know, this one just sort of resonated to me in that sense. So it was something that I felt I wanted to take a chance and include. I had no idea if any of these were even going to be accepted. I thought maybe one, maybe none. So you just have no idea. And you just put images forward like everyone else was going to put forward.
We should clarify, they have been accepted. We don't know if they're going to end up in the final final exhibit yet. So you know you're
it might still be out.
Oh yeah. I'm fine with that. I don't.
Give us a photo editor's perspective on this image. As she left.
Indira, where'd you go? She bounced. Well, Griff could give you one. Griff.
What's that?
Give a photo editor's kind of perspective.
As it pertains to Visions of Hope?
As it pertains.
Technical, what do you like about this photo?
Everything.
Yeah. Hate.
And everything begins with the composition.
Yeah.
I love the framing of the image with the circular frame by the, I would presume this is ductwork for sewage.
Yeah.
Yes. So that whole circular feel that's repeated in the background with the kids relaxing in the circles, and even the form of the kids jumping that could also mimic the circle. All of those things put together just make it a wonderful, a beautiful photograph. You know, you can look in, you know, we all have this affinity for circles, that there's this completion that's going on in this photograph. So not only does the composition reinforce the message, it tends to make it even stronger.
Mm-hmm. Look at the tension in the feet. Actually, on the foot, I guess it's the left foot, and you can see that toe is just about to spring him forward.
Right.
And you have all of this different points of play, all kind of intersecting. And I think that's some of the things why we choose some images, because there's so many things that are happening, but they're presented in a way that is so simple. And that's why I think Joe was right about giving us context, because it's not that we're going to judge a picture of solely on what you write, but if a picture is great, when you have that context, it's almost like that picture got wings. It's just flew. And
It really does.
And Colin, you're a perfect example. The way you add context, because it tells me you're thinking. You're not reacting. You're thinking. You're investigating.
Yeah, I look at that picture, that same picture shot from a different perspective, you know, maybe not through the circle, would have a totally different feel.
Different.
Yeah, I mean, that just makes it.
Yeah. Yeah. Bye-bye.
And so hello. I was also looking at it from a slightly different perspective, in that they are obviously not in an ideal situation. And I think you mentioned something about Agent Orange. And it just made me think about that famous Pulitzer Prize winning photograph by Nick Ut, where the little napalm girl is running towards him as after she's been injured by it. And then you see this tiny little boy right here on the right-hand side, and there's so much joy and so much hope in the same exact situation. And so it just makes me think that, you know, it's bad, but it's clear why this is about hope.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, thanks for submitting that photo, Colin, and we'll give it some really good consideration when the time comes. I promise.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's a wonderful photo. I mean, I'm not gonna.
We'll get back to you.
Wonderful.
we'll get back to you.
But before we go into some of the other submissions, I thought I wanted to take a minute and have Carl talk about this. And we've used this image to sort of promote tonight's show, but we should tell people a little bit about it. And you know, I love this image. I mean, it's just such a strong, dignified presence there. But Carl, what are we looking at?
When Obama's running for president, for the presidency back in 2008, Leonard Pitts and I I was sitting, and I said, man, you know, what does this mean to a person of color, specifically a Black man? What does that mean to a Black man in the South? To see that a Black man's has a possibility of holding the highest office, not only in this country, but in the world, become the most powerful man in the world. And our first plan was to kind of drive to the South, you know, talking to people, mostly men, because we wanted to kind of depict the condition of the Black male, because at the time, Black men were being bombarded, and they're being incarcerated at high rates, killed by police at high rates. They were losing their jobs. So we said, hey, we're gonna get in our car and we're gonna drive around South. Well, that didn't happen because the finances were not quite there. So we kind of downscaled the project, and we said, let's go to Memphis and track down some of these former sanitation workers who were protesting in 1968, which was the reason why Martin Luther King was in Memphis to begin with, is to show support for that union. So we went there, and I met Mr. Nickelberry. And to hear him talk about marching, to hear him talk about his treatment in 1968, and to see that history come to life, to see that history to continue to be relived in present time. And so I said, okay, look, you know, I want to spend some time with you. This is one of two photographs of Mr. Nickelberry, Elmore Nickelberry. The other one, the part two, I photographed him in front of the Lorraine Hotel where Martin Luther King was shot. And then I found out the gentleman that's to the right is his son, who also became a sanitation worker and became head of the union, head of the shop. And I started thinking the legacy of pride was parallel to the legacy of systemic racism. But the pride and identity I knew would overcome the legacy of racism. The dignity in which she allowed me to photograph him in, the certainty, the certainty that was in his eyes. He's looking forward. He's not looking back. He's looking forward. That to me made the frame. So less than 2 weeks ago, Mocha called me and said, hey, we want to put this picture outside of our Museum of Contemporary Art. I said, yeah, well, you know, yeah, I somewhat own it, but it's, you know, Harold's involved. You need to call, clear it to the Herald. And the Herald, being very generous, very, very, very kind, said, yeah, no, we would love to be part of this project. And so they made a print 22 feet by 19 feet. So all the Black children, all the Black little boys, Black little girls, all the little girls and little boys of color can pass by this and look at it and declare what is self-evident, that there are women and there are men. They're not rats, they're not crap, they're not less of, they are great. And I think that's what Mr. Nickelberry was seeing in advance. And I have to thank him for that. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, and I love the sign. It ties into today, because I see people out on the street today with that sign, I am a man, and it is from the 1960s, and that sanitation strike in Memphis is where that, I believe, that sign was first held up.
Used. If you get a chance, Google "I Am a Man" in Miami Herald, and you could read this amazing piece that Leonard Pitts wrote. If you go to our if you go to IG, I also did a short video using this image and some other images. There were probably 5 or 6 other sanitation workers, all holding their signs in various different environments. That was something very hard to declare back in '68. That was something that would get you lynched. And to have that, and to be brave and say, no, I am not a strange fruit. I refuse to be treated and to be called a boy. I am a man. That is a declaration of existence. And that is a declaration of hope.
It's beautiful. Anyone else want to weigh in before I move on? Okay, so we're going to get to some submissions now. None of the panel has seen these photos beforehand or knows which photos we're going to show tonight, but we've all seen them before, except for Colin, who may be seeing them for the first time. So this is, I'm just going to throw it out there. What was your visceral reaction, Maria, when you saw this photo? Why did you vote for it to be in the project?
Well, I think there was this old man, and I don't remember sincerely the story behind, but as a photo, these 3 young children looking at this man leaving. I think he was in the train, right?
Yeah, he's a clown. He's
like a clown, right? And I don't know, I just felt joy in their faces, and I liked it. And
it's from a displacement camp in northern Iraq.
In Iraq, right? There's so many pictures we've seen. Yeah, and it's, for me, mostly I think it's joy that impressed me.
Someone else want to give some impressions, or Colin for the first time?
I mean, these images sometimes for these children, it's anything you can do to lift their spirit, to lift their hope in these spaces where there's so much happening to them and that they're surrounded with, and they're in such a difficult place in their lives. So these intermittent moments of joy are just ecstatic celebrations to lift the spirit. And you see that especially in the young girl in the front left.
Mm.
You can see her expression, and then the next expression. Even the little girl in the orange cowering behind, she's locked in directly with the photographer, the little
Right.
girl there, and she's looking. So everyone has their own experience of who and what we are, and you know, I think it connects with people. And he's positive, 2 thumbs up, and it's a precious moment. So to be able to bring that to a young girl and to these young girls in a place like this is, you know, is gold.
Great.
Plus, he's leaving.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
leaving. He's
Yeah.
reassuring them that things are all going to be okay.
yeah,
You know, he was there to entertain them and to kind of lift the weight of living in a camp as a child.
yeah.
Yeah, that's I love it.
But I think it also ties into all our childhood memories of seeing clowns and being around them, how it's lifted our spirits. So it gives us something that we can easily identify with.
Right.
So one of the things that we've talked about quite a bit is we get a lot of photos of children. A lot of photos of children. And that's not surprising because children often represent our hope and our dreams. You know, when I look at my daughter, she represents my hope and dreams. But here's a picture, and it's some indigenous folks children in Colombia, Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta.
Right.
Indira, why did you like this photo?
I think we were talking about this yesterday also when we were discussing some of the later submissions, and saying that this particular group of people had been through very hard situations due to drug cartels and having to be in the middle of all those happenings. And getting an image of 2 children in such a serene setting, so beautiful. Everything is of a very soothing color. The composition is so perfect. Your eyes go precisely to them. And then their faces, there's that questioning, innocent look. Just, you look at this photo and it just makes you feel, immediately it makes you feel calm. You almost walk away, you have absolutely no feeling, no idea of all of the tough realities that these 2 little people here go through every day. And it is so important that they have a respite from all those other things that perhaps make their life, you know, a whole lot harder and in a way that none of us could even imagine. So there's hope amidst all of the things that they go through. And I think this is one of the good examples that show us that, you know, life is full of different things. And here we see hope.
There's 3
and
kids.
I love it. I think it's beautiful.
There's 3 children. You
Yeah,
know
there's
that, right?
a baby on the back.
There's a baby in the back.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she has the baby in
right.
her
She's
back.
carrying the
back,
baby.
carry, yeah. And that's what really caught my eye. You know, you have a child taking care of a child.
Another child.
And that's traditional, right? You know, you start being a little mom from very early in your life, and you start, you know, shouldering that responsibility. And again, you know,
but she hasn't lost her innocence either.
Yeah,
she's still a child. You know,
it's such a contrast, right?
Yeah.
Such a contrast.
That's hot.
I'll move us along here. Okay.
Who shot this horrible picture?
Yeah, who's that Carol? I've never met her. Yeah.
I'm gonna allow Carol to talk too if she wants to join the conversation. I know she's out there. Carol, if you want to weigh in at any moment, just unmute your mic. I mean, this is a moment, right? This is just being there and seeing the world change before your eyes.
Hate.
What's that?
No, I just said hate, jealous. Such a beautiful picture.
We can't see you, Carol, we promise.
We can't see you, Carol. Just please talk. I guess Carol.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, hello, darlings.
Hello, Carol.
Hi.
Hello. Yes, I didn't comb my hair, so I can't be seen.
Okay.
Been great listening to y'all. Oh my gosh, so eloquent and articulate. Amazing, amazing images.
So who shot this picture, Carol?
I did. Long, many moons ago. I love that it says, "Long live this wall." You know, that was, we cover, I think, so many tragedies and, you know, issues. And, you know, as journalists, you just, you know, you see a lot of the underbelly of the world. But this was, you know, the fall of the wall was one of those moments of unbridled joy, just intense, you know, the symbolism of it, the, you know, the unity after such long division. And it's just, it was so beautiful. And I remember putting the camera down, literally consciously putting the camera down for a moment just to look and feel it, you know, because when we look through a lens, sometimes, you know, it's different than viewing it with your own eyes. And, you know, I pinched myself knowing that I was witnessing this amazing time in history. And the wall came down. I wish all the walls would start coming down.
Wow, that's a profound statement, Carol. Me too.
Hmm.
I wish all the walls would start.
What do you guys think about that? You know, you're all photojournalists here, documentary photographers, and that camera can sometimes shield you. You use that as sort of, you know, keeping you separate, keeping you apart from the scene. And I like what Carol just said about taking that camera down and just soaking it in and kind of absorbing the moment. Sometimes they tell you, okay, you're a photojournalist, you're not supposed to be part of the moment. Can you CW or Colin or Maria, anybody want to take that a little bit forward?
Well, I mean, sometimes it's very difficult for you to divorce yourself from the moment. I mean, I know I've been in situations where my eyes had been so full of tears that I couldn't shoot. And the only thing that had kept me in that situation in the first place was the distance that I had between the situation by placing the camera in front of my face. So I agree with her full-heartedly that there are very many instances where in order to really feel a situation, you have to remove the camera, you have to put it down, because it is a shield. It's been that way for years. You pick up that camera and things change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh. I love this moment of humanity. It was just, this was in Syria last fall, and the soldiers at the checkpoint were taking care of these little abandoned puppies. There was so much, it was the conflict with Turkey. And it was so brutal, and the drone strikes, the smoke you're seeing is from burning tires, and they used this as a screen to try to avoid the airstrikes, which were horrendous. But at these checkpoints, there would be all these little abandoned puppies, and you know, the soldiers would just take a moment to be gentle. And I think it was probably mutual, the caring for each other in this, you know, the backdrop of the horror of war. There's always these little moments of hope if you just open your eyes and look.
Moments of tenderness again.
Tender, yeah, very tender.
And it's a beautiful photo because you see the fire, the smoke, you see the arm, how you call it, that from the army rifle, and each one, it's like 3 stories in
one place.
Yes.
It's just a juxtaposition of, you know, yes, war and innocence. I mean, right there in one frame, it was.
Exactly.
And the blue of the carpet and the blue of the sky, it frames everything in between. The relationship, it frames everything. It's a great, great mechanism to draw your eye to that little poochie.
Looks just like my puppy I rescued. They all kind of look alike.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Carol, for all your submissions. I think
We have to make sure she gets in. We're not sure yet.
yeah.
We have to think.
Yeah, we have to figure if you're gonna make it in.
Those images.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Carol. So this is another theme that we've seen. Our children, we've seen children, and this actually has a child in the picture, but we also have a lot of images of migration and refugees and people trying to get to a better place. And I guess that, you know, speaks to resilience and perseverance. Colin, I'm gonna put you on the spot. You've seen a lot of that in the world and in your travels and in your work. You're probably seeing this image for the first time. Can you give us some of your first impressions?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're really pulled in to the young boy and the depth of this water and what this must be like for these people as this group is, I imagine, crossing this small river. It's and carrying his young boy or his you know, we don't know exactly, or at least I don't know the exact caption behind it, but
they're traveling between Greece and North Macedonia. I think they're I don't know if they're Syrian refugees or where they're actually originating from.
I can't remember.
And that's the whole beauty of the whole moment, you know, and so many photographers like Carl and certainly Carol, whose work I've just been astounded by. The first moment I ever saw some of her images, and Maggie and some of the other amazing people that are good friends of yours that have just been these incredibly powerful women, created unbelievably strong work, you know, and in this image here too. They're, you know, the whole power of these images speaking to you with or without a caption. Obviously we can tell it's in a particular country, but this could also be the hurricane in Houston. This could be New Orleans. This could be anyone saving their child. And you've captured and created a universal image of strength and hope and taking care of the next generation that cannot take care of itself. You carry this child in your arms as you would in New Orleans, in Houston, in Aleppo, in Belfast, in Bosnia, in Darfur. It's this universal love, obviously, that we have for our fellow humans. And, you know, we've been very blessed to do what it is that we do. And the camera magnifies for me the truths that I see unfolding before the lens. And this is very powerfully done.
All right. So here's an example of a photo. We had a long discussion about this photo, and I included it for a couple different reasons. One, the photographer, I believe, is either a college student or just recently graduated from Syracuse, and it's a photo that she took. You know, we've had all these images of around the world in Berlin and Syria and, you know, wherever, but this was taken in her house, and a picture of her brother, who, those are, I think, her younger brother's hands, and her caption was, it was somewhat of a short caption, but talks about how he has anxiety and bites his nails and how she hopes that he grows out of it as she did. Who remembers this discussion? Who wants to remind us why we decided to put this one in the show?
We were enchanted by this photo. I remember just looking at it and just going, wow. And sometimes when photographers just gaze at something, when editors just gaze at something and just take that deep breath and you just go and you just remember why is it that you like photography so much, because it just makes you happy. This is an example of that. And just looking at, again, a child, and as Joe was saying, we've gotten a variety of photos depicting children, but this was different. It's a different perspective, and just the little hands. Is a boy with just these very, very, very dainty, tiny little flowers, and it just makes you so hopeful to think that someone can get happiness out of something so very simple, so small. It just fills your soul with joy. It really just does.
I think that the detail of putting the flowers on top of those bitten nails, that on top of anxiety, you transcend that. That was something that I remember about this photo, because she knows how I don't know, we don't know the story, but to have that anxiety there, bite your nails like that. And here comes the sister and puts flowers. I think it was the sister that puts flowers. So that struck me. That really made I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, that gesture of love to put those flowers there, to just make it just go forward in a positive direction. Like, you know, maybe you won't bite your nails before, and if you do, I still have love for you, and I'm still with you no matter what.
For you. I'll put flowers for you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think also this was one of the instances where we saw that the backstory really added to the photograph, you know, to the power of the photograph. Knowing that it was there because of the nail biting, just elevated the whole thing.
Because ultimately it's about healing.
Yeah.
Really. For her sister to try and help her younger brother heal, and to try and turn something that's a negative into something beautiful and positive.
Absolutely.
So it's a very interesting spiritual, innocent moment that's been captured here.
Yeah, it just comes through your eye as beautiful, and then it just gets so much better when you hear the story, right?
Yeah.
Carl, you were you had a strong reaction the first time you saw this photo.
Yes, like, you know, because of so many things happening at one time. You have youth versus, you know, experience or elderly. You even have the weight, you know, the weight of life on the left side. He has a lot of things he's carrying, and the young boy is carrying nothing. Okay, 2 wheels versus 3. It's a lot of in this intersection where they kind of pass each other. It's almost he's looking at him when he's remembering when he was young, and he's looking like the little boy's looking like at the old guy and saying like, wait a minute, I gotta carry all this stuff. I don't know. I want to be like Peter Pan. I want to stay, but of course that's probably I'm injecting a lot of my subjective analysis on this, but images play that way because when you look at an image and you can see yourself, you can see your values, then that image has really worked well. You know, it's such a beautiful moment. It's really, and it's well executed.
There's some of the passing of the torch moment here as well.
And it's really powerful too, I think, Carl. It's just you also notice and feel the speed demon in this elderly gentleman, and the freedom of youth and no responsibility. And obviously that's sometimes freedom of the road. And also you look at this old man and you all of a sudden understand that he enjoys speeding into hell.
Yeah.
On that left-hand side, he's got a NOS tank.
NOS tank, yeah.
So when he's only doing 80 and he wants to kick it up to 120 or 30, he just hits the NOS tank.
He's gone.
He's cat out of hell, man.
Yeah.
And it's like he's looking at this little kid. It's like, dude, I was just like you, man. I'm a bat out of hell, and I'm 80 years old, man. Right. I know what it's like to be 3.
We have the photographer in the audience, actually, Erica. Erica, you can turn on your mic if you want to join us for a second. Hey, how you doing, Erica?
Hey guys, I'm good.
Hi, Erica.
Hey, Carl.
So the gentleman in this photo, Erica, he actually built like a tourist attraction in Arizona, and that's what this area is. It's this rustic sort of place that he built himself.
Yeah, this is a spot in Jerome, Arizona. And this gentleman built, he was obsessed and just really intrigued by everything antique, everything from cars to, dental tools to literally everything imaginable. So he started collecting and built this little town kind of right on top of where an old miners spot is. So it's called the Jerome Ghost Town now, and he actually passed away just a couple of years ago. And so I sent them these photos back when they were doing, his obituary and things, because I had met him once or twice when I was up there, and he was pretty quiet when I met him. He just kind of did his own thing around town. But before I actually even knew who he was, I photographed him with the little boy. The little boy was a visitor of the town. He opened it up to everybody. I think it was, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. You could go in there and check everything out for like $5, and just wander. And this was the only other little family in there with me for the day. And the little boy ran to go get the trike from like a garage that was over on the right as soon as he saw the guy on his motorcycle. He was so excited to try and be like him, and that to me just screamed hope. So
who was more excited, the little boy on the tricycle or you seeing the shot come together?
I'm gonna go with me. Definitely me.
Thank you, Erica.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for all that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for submission.
So this shot was in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and there was a demonstration, a peaceful demonstration against the governor, Ricardo Rossello. Eventually he resigned, but I included this picture because we're living in a moment right now of protest and demands for racial justice. And so this, when this project started, we were all sort of locked down and not going out and making photos, but now a lot of people are making images, and we haven't seen a lot from the protests that are going on and the demonstrations, and I'm sure there's some images of hope out there that can be made as well. Maria, what did you think about this photo?
Well, this protest, I think it had a good end for them, and it was peaceful. And Puerto Rico has been going through so bad times, the hurricane, so many things, and they, for me, they were still doing things peacefully. I don't know until when, but it was a peaceful march. That's what I understood from that's what I liked from this one.
Yeah, I think that's a really strong point to make in these current times too, that, people want to sort of draw this line and say it's 1968 again, but really it's 1964. This is a peaceful movement for the most part. We're seeing people, rise up all over the country. It's a beautiful moment.
Yeah, and they are very angry. I'm working in Puerto Rico with a project, and there you can hear people that are angry, and then you see them protesting peacefully.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is an image in transparency. Kurth Bob is a member of the Focus on Story Board of Directors. He's also a very talented photographer. It didn't give us much of a cut line, but this woman is a Haitian woman in her kitchen. CW, if I recall in our discussion, you had some comments on this photo. What did you see in it when you looked at it?
Initially, I saw a strong sense of pride in what she was doing. With the expression on her face and the fact that, you can tell by all of those large pots behind her that she's preparing meals for a lot of people. And so just that feeling of doing something for others was the first thing that jumped out at me when I initially saw this picture.
and this image is made in Haiti, but it could be made anywhere, right? I mean, I think that's one of the things I also want to stress is that, you know, you don't have to go to some exotic location. You can make this in your community.
Yeah, I can make that picture right around the corner from my house. I live in Little Haiti.
Yeah, sure can.
Yeah, I live in an area of Miami called Little Haiti, and I can walk around the corner and make that picture.
Wow.
So there's a backstory here. I'll find the cut line. This is Sierra Jefferson, a Howard University School of Communications graduate. This is taken in 2016, and the commencement speaker is President Barack Obama. He actually is telling her story of struggling, growing up, and being the first in her family to graduate from college with honors. I think we have the photographer in the audience, Charisse May.
Yeah, we do.
I'm going to turn your mic on, Cherie.
Mama, I made it.
Yeah, you did.
How is everybody?
Great.
Thanks for asking.
Beautiful.
Beautiful picture.
Thank you. So this picture, she actually, this is when Barack Obama was the commencement speaker at Howard. And this was a student in the School of Communications who was a first generation college grad. And she lived with, she was raised by a single mom, and she had one sibling. And she actually worked her way through college to help support herself in school. And she made it, graduated top of her class. And Obama in his speech started to tell her story, and she didn't even know like this was going to happen. So she stood up in the midst of all the grads that day. And I just, thankfully, when I turned around, I was able to focus right in on her as he's telling her story of how she, her resilience and just how hard she worked to make this day happen. And not only that, she was successful. Even though she had all these odds against her, she made it, and she did it successfully.
Yeah, I mean, that speaks of hope, right? Carrying the weight of the generations on you, and wow, it's a powerful image.
Thank you.
One thing I say, Joe, if you look at the images we're choosing, it's not only in terms that's diversity in people and places and subject, but in photographers. We want all voices to come to the table. We want, you know, it's like Griff was saying earlier about perspectives. We want everyone to bring their perspective to the table, their voice. And don't be intimidated. You think it's not a competition. This is a celebration, right? So you have to see it that way. So bring your celebratory visual storytelling to the table. Bring it to us so we can celebrate with you.
Carl, I want you to talk a little bit about what your vision of this project is in you know, when we finally have an exhibit, or when the world returns to normal enough that we can put this up somewhere. Where do you see this project going?
The hope is have it go to to 6 different continents. We're gonna have 2 shows in North America. Miami's gonna represent Central America and the Caribbean, and we're going to try to be also in South America, either Brazil, Argentina, or Colombia. We want to be in Europe. We want to be in Africa, of course, in Asia, and my hope is that, again, we give the world a glimpse of our human scrapbook. I don't want Africans to look at Africans. I want Africans to look at Americans and see themselves. You know, so we're looking at hopefully doing one huge show, 300 prints in Miami, and then breaking those taking that show and breaking it into six different exhibitions of 50 images each. The idea is to print big and to give people time to look at this, to look at the images, and hopefully they can be transported to that place, to that connection. And that to me is what I would like. And hopefully we could sell some prints, we could maybe do a book. I don't know. For right now, I just want people to see themselves in different faces, in different circumstances.
This is the last photo we'll be able to look at tonight. And it again is somewhat different than some of the other photos. We debated a little bit on this one and went back to it and just decided you know, that it spoke to us. Who wants to chime in? CW or Indira or Maria? Anybody want to give some thoughts on this one?
What I remember is that this photograph it's like the person, this hand is reaching towards the bird, and the bird is like, I don't know why, but birds represent in a way freedom, and that's how I saw this picture.
Yeah.
Something like reaching out towards freedom, towards the horizon.
So can it also be images that evoke a mood or a feeling?
Yes.
As well as, you know, having contact.
And sometimes some images, remember the image of Kirsten Lewis, that she had an image that it was a beautiful image, but it's important to say that, however, the story behind the image is important, because sometimes it conveys the importance of hope.
Right.
And it's important that people that are going to submit more, that they write a paragraph, and sometimes it uplifts the photo, gives it more strength to the photo.
Right, if you see an image and it evokes that feeling in you, it might not be exactly what the photographer was thinking, but if it makes you get that feeling inside of you, then you know the photographer has done his job in a way.
Yeah. So the call for submissions was originally, we had said July 15th is when we would end it. I think
Right.
Carl and I have discussed that we're going to extend that. I don't think we've actually come up with a end date yet.
No.
But at least through the end of this month, well, not this month, the next month would be July. Through the end of July, we'll be continuing to accept the photos at the link that's posted. It takes you to Lens Culture, and you have to upload there. And then we're likely to continue it past then as well, because we think that the narrative is changing with some of the things that are happening in the country right now, and that we'll get another selection that are more current. A lot of these photos that we've seen so far, the photos that Colin and Carl and Maria have in CW have in the gallery are from years ago, and I think we'll probably be seeing some more current submissions as well. So we're hopefully going to get the word out, tell people to continue to submit, and I hope some of you folks out there tonight are going to make some images or look through your archives and submit, because we'd love to have them. We're getting towards the end here, and I feel, like I said, I'm extremely grateful to have been able to do as many shows as we've done over the last 3 months. It's been a great experience having people from all over the world tune in. It started off as just having a feeling that I needed to do something. We needed to get stuff on and we needed to give people some content. And that's, you know, that's what started us. We're in a different place than when we began April 1st. And now, you know, the world is trying to open back up, maybe not smartly, but it's happening. And, you know, I'm in a different place mentally than I was in that beginning. But this has been a great experience. I hope we can have an in-person festival next year. I'm not sure we will, but you know, if we can, we will. But I think we're going to continue to do things online. Even, you know, I'm not going to have them every week now. Sometimes we've had them once a week, twice a week. You know, we'll probably have another show in July. I think July 17th. I'm going to try to do something with Zeke Magazine, and we're going to do a show. But we'll still do some stuff throughout the year. But next June, we hope to have an in-person festival again. And then towards the end of next year, you know, if things work out, we may have our big party in Miami with this exhibit. And hopefully everybody will come out. You know, Colin, we can't afford to fly you out, but I hope you come to Miami for the.
Yeah, for sure, man.
He knows what he could stay. Colin's got a place to put his head.
That's for sure. You got a place to stay.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
It's been wonderful having all of you here. I want to thank my board of directors at Focus on Story. Almost every single one of them has hosted a show during this time. And visit us at focusonthestory.org. Join our mailing list. Be part of our community on Facebook if you're on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, I understand. You know, just have a lot of love for these people on with me tonight, and for a lot of you out there. You know, we're at the end, and I'm not going to give anybody a last word, but thank you so much, and thank you everyone out there.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank you. Good night, buddies. Good night,
Right.
Carl.
What's up, brother?